Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. My name is Glenn, and I'm here with Adam and Colin, and your Overwatch League news starts now.
One shot, one kill. Tesla, the cavalry Nerf
Welcome to the podcast, everybody, and it is a beautiful Monday, so you know what that means. Ladies and gentlemen, we are doing Mayhem Monday. So welcome to a special Mayhem Monday. Today's episode, we are going to take a look into the preseason match, Mayhem versus Fuel. This was, when we did our predictions, probably my number one most anticipated match. And I'm super excited for us to go into it. So before we get too in depth, let's go over a couple of the basic rules, especially maps. So Colin, why don't you talk to us about maps and what they entail?
All right. So the last time we saw Mayhem play, it was up against the Shock, going down the Dorado playlist. And the last time we saw the Fuel, they were going up against the Outlaws, also on the Dorado playlist. So it only makes sense that for this game, they played on Junkertown, Horizon Lunar Colony, Ilios, and Nimbani. That fun little collection, including the Mayhem's mascot, Hometown.
Junkertown, absolutely. And each one of these maps has a different objective, so we're going to talk about objectives as well, as far as like escort.
Escort, yeah. Junkertown is going to be an escort, where you just move the payload from point A to point B. Lunar is going to be an assault, where it's one very open map with two capture points that you have to capture in sequential order. Ilios is just your basic homegrown control point map, where you got three pocket maps inside one larger one, each with their own centralized point to capture. And then Nimbani is going to be our favorite, which is a hybrid map. Takes the best parts of an assault and a escort map and kind of just lumps them all into one.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great time. And Adam, why don't you talk to us about rosters for both teams?
Come on. I hate waiting. Let's talk about these rosters. I looked up all of Junkrat's voice lines trying to find one that I could use as a segue.
No. Wow, the delivery was spot on. First thing I thought was Junkrat.
I picked the worst one.
And delivered it as flatly as possible.
Yes.
So I know you hate waiting. Come on.
So let's start with the Dallas Fuel. They played a heck of a match. Their roster, they wind up with, is it Taimu?
Taimu, yes.
Yep, Taimu, Effect, Seagull, who I know Glenn is a huge fan of.
Huge fan.
Mickey. We're all going to remember this guy. He wants us to remember him. Coco. XQC. Chips. Harry Hook, who's actually the captain. He's been voted the team captain.
Awesome.
And Custa.
And you said Effect, right?
Yes, I did mention Effect.
Just making sure, because
we're going to be talking about Effect a lot. I'm pretty positive.
Just making sure.
And for those of you that are unaware of our local hometown boys with the Florida Mayhem, we have Tvik, Logix, Manitin, Swoosh, Zebosai, and Zupa. Tvik. I keep putting the emphasis on the T.
Yeah, the Tvik.
Come on. I hate pronunciation.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so two great teams. And we saw the Mayhem play earlier. We saw a lot of great stuff. Came up a little short against the Shock, but we went into this match with high hopes, and you know what? They did their best. They absolutely did against the Fuel, and to be honest, it was gonna be a hard matchup from the very beginning because we watched the Fuel Outlaw game and the Fuel was bringing something completely different to the table, but it was an incredible match. I mean, it wasn't too one-sided. There was definitely a lot of back and forth, especially on our control point maps, but it was all in all a lot of fun to watch. So. Our first match, like Colin said, our first map, so to speak, our first round was on Junkertown. And we saw a lot of great stuff that a lot of stuff that we had seen a little bit before. Logix as Tracer. We had a lot of great Tracer fights between Logix and Effect, which was definitely a highlight for the map for me. And then Tvik as Widow had like a 4-player... I don't even know how to describe it. It was just incredible to watch him just pick people off as Widow, getting to that first point.
I will say that he started off a little bit rough. He had that really, really interesting to watch failed hook right into a wall as D.Va detonated, leaving a pretty cartoony splat mark right there. And then even before that great sequential pick that you kind of mentioned there, he missed a hook and then hooked right into a rock, but he got himself that distance. He turned right around, and as we were probably still chuckling at him, he picked off 3 people, including getting D.Va out of that mech and just
picking her off
out
right
midair. Yeah,
which seriously, I mean, we bring this up because this was probably one of the most notable plays from the Mayhem coming out of Junkertown. They ended up actually winning this map, which was a great way to start off the match. Against the Shock, they won their very last one, which at that point the Shock had already won. So coming into the Fuel game, winning this first map right off the bat, coming off pretty strong, there were a lot of high hopes for them at the very beginning.
Well, and especially seeing being Logix when it comes to Tracer.
Those Tracer plays were incredible. There was a lot of good stuff from both teams, but ultimately, like I said, Mayhem ended up winning. So we went into Lunar Colony with the Mayhem on the upper hand.
Lunar Colony.
Yeah, seriously.
I've mentioned this before. It's personally probably one of my least favorite maps, but it's also a map that just it's hard to get a grasp of, it's got some really interesting entry points when it comes to both point A and point B. You can really bunker up in there. There's a lot of good sniping positions. There's a lot of good flanking positions.
A lot of good turret positions too.
Exactly, but it makes it super difficult for, I'd say, both attacking and defending. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't gotten a good grasp on it, but I feel like a lot of players do struggle on Horizon.
It also has probably one of the most interesting parts of any map that we've seen, the outside zero grav area, which is separate from the rest of the map, and honestly just like a side trek to even
if anyone used it. If anyone used it, it'd be a lot cooler. But
yeah. But it's very random. It's not in the middle of the map. You don't have to go through it to get to the point. It's literally just a side way to avoid taking the stairs if you really wanted to. But it is very, very unique for the map.
And I will say that this map definitely lends itself a lot more to kind of stealth roll into point A, and we saw that a lot with Tvik pulling out Sombra.
Yeah,
trying his best to break through the barriers there.
I thought it was very interesting that we saw both teams play Sombra at some point during this match. We hadn't really seen that many Sombras through the first few days of the preseason, so it was really nice not only seeing Sombra, but we got some really great Moira play as well. So it was really cool seeing these two teams, especially the Dallas Fuel, kind of experimenting with their picks, and kind of it seemed like they were playing to win, but at the same time, since it was a preseason match, they were also kind of playing around with some different metas and trying to figure out what they really wanted to go with.
Absolutely, which is great to see, especially for both of those heroes. I mean, Sombra came out a year ago during BlizzCon, and Moira came out during BlizzCon this year. So it was great to see both of them competitively. They both bring a lot to the table, especially Moira, so absolutely new, has not been nerfed yet. There's still a lot that can be done with her that we don't know. You know what I mean? Like there are so many great plays, and she's a really great healer, and she does a lot of damage. I mean, she can basically fit into any meta or any lineup that we need her to fit into. And like you said, Sombra is so versatile. I mean, being as sneaky as she is, being able to get into the back line, being able to do so much by picking people off, by hacking people, by rendering them almost completely useless. She is a great counter to D.Va, which we saw Mickey play a lot. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a conscious choice to bring her into the fold.
However, sometimes conscious choices don't really lend themselves well to the game, because at least one point we saw Tavik enter the point as Sombra, kind of get wrecked, and then we
with
saw
that Junkrat trap, yeah.
And then we saw Zupa, for some reason, swoop in, res her. Zupa gets wrecked,
yep,
and kind of leaves Tavik out there. But I don't know. That's what I'm kind of seeing a lot more from this match than their first one, is that the Mayhem at times operate really well together, but at other times they seem to make a lot of small mistakes that on their own wouldn't break the bank, but when they accumulate, I don't know.
Again, kind of piggybacking off what you said, Colin, when we're seeing this level of play, even the smallest of mistakes, these are the best players in the entire world. They're going to be able to capitalize on a bad res or some bad positioning.
Exactly.
And what we saw plague the Mayhem in their first game against the San Francisco Shock continued. It just seemed like the tanks couldn't keep the healers alive long enough. The healers were gone early on in every single team fight, and that it really hurt the Mayhem throughout this entire match.
And we saw, at least on this one, we had Swoosh as Winston, and he really helped them, take down Mickey as D.Va and get that first point. But they didn't seem to have that kind of level of protective coordination, especially when it came to the end of Capture Point B, where it seemed that Effect was just picking them all off without even having to use his ult. He just stood at the back corner and just shot everyone.
Yeah,
just kept them all off, and
seeing
made sure
Effect play Soldier to me was so exciting, and I think he did pop his tactical visor
at the very end.
Yeah, at the very end. But again, seeing him play Soldier, I mean, he's such a versatile tracer. The movement, his coordination, his anticipation, being able to place those bombs where he needs to place them, being able to be behind enemy lines and pick off those supports, which is the Mayhem's weakness, is not covering those supports. I mean, he helped turn the tide multiple times. So seeing him play Soldier, which again is my favorite, and seeing what he could do with that was really exciting to watch. And I know we talked about the Mayhem's Winston, but on the other side of that coin, XQC also countered with his Winston, or we saw a lot of XQC Winston plays.
With Effect as Tracer, as you mentioned earlier, and XQC as Winston, they kind of just after a little
as Junkrat.
Oh yeah, but after a little bit, Seagull switched to Genji, and they just kind of rolled onto point A and took them all out. XQC was going crazy as Winston.
I think during this match, I saw on the Overwatch, the Twitter, the community, a lot of people, a lot of Dallas Fuel fans were using the hashtag XQCarry. And I think that, I mean, honestly, watching his Winston and watching just the way that he dives onto enemy teams is super impressive.
Well, he's a Winston who can successfully keep up and focus with a Mercy, and we saw him multiple times take down Zebasai. Him in Effect, like, these are Winston occasionally, but these aren't aerial characters. Yeah. These are just.
And one very interesting thing about XQC, other than his MVP at the World Cup, Do either of you know how many times XQC has lost a LAN game of Overwatch?
Hit us with it. How many?
Once. It was in the Overwatch World Cup final. So XQC does not lose very often, and I think that he is one that I'm going to be looking out for. I know it's early, so it's hard to make these predictions, but if I had to make a super early prediction as to someone that could possibly be viewed as an MVP of the entire league, I think XQC is probably a pretty good choice.
That is an amazing stat. Like, how many players could honestly say that they've only lost one, and it was in a Overwatch World Cup tournament?
And not only the tournament, it was the final, and he still won the MVP. So he was still voted the most valuable player, despite losing in that tournament and only ever losing that one time.
Yeah, and coming back to Horizon, seeing the Fuel kind of roll up on point B, we kind of caught a glimpse of Manitin doing that panic switch to May, just to try to hold as much as possible. But in the end, they couldn't really get it down. But this kind of, I guess, halfway through now, we're up to 1-1. And
before we move on to the next map, I do want to give the Mayhem some props. I mean, we did see Zebazayas Farah making some pretty great picks. I mean, Farah, like we said, the precision that it takes to make her actually effective is really difficult and on a different level. And I think he definitely brought something to the table. And he usually, and I think what we've seen is play a lot of support. So for him to switch to DPS and play some Farah and get a couple of those picks to help the team push, really helped out. I think he definitely made that point A capture worthwhile for them. I mean,
yeah, I've been ragging on his Mercy a little bit, but during that initial push to point A, he was getting those picks, and he was doing some work.
Absolutely.
I also want to point out to Vic flexing super hard at the end there, just kind of busting out whatever might help, eventually ending up on Doomfist near the end there. He was really pulling out and trying his
Siegel
best.
just straight taking him out was, oh man. They definitely absolutely had their work cut out for them, and obviously this map was kind of the show of strength here. So at the end of this round 2, it is 1-1, and we go into Ilios with the Lighthouse being our first map.
Ilios, probably one of my favorite capture point maps.
Definitely the most fun in my opinion.
I've spoken about this a lot, but when it comes to Lighthouse and Well, you have a ton of opportunities with environmental plays, environmental kills, like
that completely, like one Lucio Boop, one Great Farah,
one ulting Winston,
one Orisa, one Grav,
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Oh, Adam.
Classic Adam.
What do you have to say about Ilios, Adam?
No, I really think that Ilios was probably my favorite match in that matchup between the Fuel and the Mayhem. Really watching them go into overtime, fight it out. Really, it was
especially those tracer fights.
Yeah, it was
Effect and Logics.
Effect and Logics the entire time. Tracer fights are always really exciting. You have the pure speed. It's just so much fun to watch.
It kind of reminds me of a Dragon Ball Z fight where they just
beams of light everywhere.
Yeah, just exactly. place to place.
So yeah, watching Effect and Logics really fight it out as Tracer was super exciting, especially knowing how terrible my Tracer is 99% of the time. So seeing people who are extremely skilled at Tracer,
just this caliber of Tracer play,
is just incredible.
Effect was taking out people left and right, and Logic's hung back some, but did not let up when he needed to not let up, and they ended up getting well there with the Fuel capturing Lighthouse
which was our first,
in
but
the beginning.
Lighthouse, they pretty much, the Fuel ended up kind of going uncontested. I mean, the
Lighthouse,
yeah, they pretty much just took it.
We gave a good fight though at Well, because
yes, absolutely.
Well and where Logic or at Lighthouse, that's kind of where we saw them bust out their tracers, effect and logic, and then we saw kind of the beginning there. But because, I mean, for lack of a better term, because of that steamroll and that really quick cap, we didn't really get to see them to their capacity, and we saw those tracers to their capacity at I'll say.
And for sure, I definitely think we can talk about how Ilios was probably one of the quicker matches that we saw, one of the quicker rounds that we saw, because a lot of speed was going into this, and I think we saw a lot of time running out on Lunar Colony, and we saw a lot of time on Junkertown, you know what I mean, with getting the payload on pretty much all the way there. It was just, this Ilios was just going so quickly.
I'll tell you what I saw in Ilios when it came to the ruins. I saw Chips as Moira, and I saw Chips as a very frightening Moira.
Moira can be terrifying, especially her Kamehameha ultimate. I mean...
Well, yeah, but, I mean, we usually associate Chips with Xin and Ana. We definitely see his Ana coming up. But as Moira, he definitely ulted a few swoosh, Zebazai. Like, he was very frightening.
And I think
building up ult to a terrifying rate.
I think that Moira's ult, especially when used in the right hands, and we saw this in this match, you know, it really turns team fights around because, you know, you're healing and doing damage at the exact same time. So if you have, you know, that effects and logics tracer fight going on, not only are you doing damage, but I mean, you're giving your team the upper hand. So I think, you know, we're going to see, if we don't already see an uptick in Moira play in this league, I think that as long as that character stays the same, I think we're going to definitely see an increase in Moira play.
Yeah. And her, because, I mean, her range is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, her I don't remember what it's called, but her purple claw, her purple stream has an amazing range. And like I said, her ult also has incredible range. I mean, like, we were seeing her hit people on the other side of the ruins, like, when we were in the pit. It was great to see. And again, it's something that I'm really excited to keep watching because she's so new. And this is kind of how I felt when Orisa came out. When Orisa came out, I was super excited because her abilities were game-changing, and she was a tank that could really, you know, partner with a lot of people and really help push the payload while protecting and doing damage at the same time. This is Moira as well. Protecting, doing damage, healing, supporting, being whatever she needed to be, and then fading in behind the back line and being able to pick people off as well. I mean, we're seeing... I always thought Zenyatta was the DPS healer, but now we're seeing kind of another DPS healer on this side.
Absolutely. And kind of coming back to the ruins here, we saw something that we didn't necessarily see for these first 2 points, where we saw a good amount of back and forth in between Mayhem having it and Fuel having it. And since we had that kind of extended period of time, we got to see some really good plays and some really interesting missteps, I think, from a few people. Now, Zebasai, I thought, went the absolute correct direction on these maps. He went Lucio, and he was kind of zipping in and out, keeping his feet on the point, but he wasn't really quite that aware when Mickey dropped that diva ult, and he was honestly the only one that got caught up in that. Not that it really knocked him off his flow that much, but at this level of play, a diva ult, we've seen some really good ones, but it should be,
especially from the Fuel.
Yeah, it should be semi easy enough to avoid, because where we think it all kind of comes and goes really fast. I mean, in this level, you have, I'm assuming, what feels like an extended period of time to find even the smallest part of geometry that can block her blasts. And
we also saw a couple mistakes on Effect. I mean, this might have been the only round that I can really say that Effect had a couple of missteps with missing the pulse bomb, or
yeah, definitely.
Which again, that pulse bomb changes tides so easily, but I mean, it didn't slow them down. That's the thing. They had missteps, and we saw them make a lot of missteps against the Outlaws as well, but it doesn't slow them down. They're able to recover really, really well, which is something that we're not seeing the Mayhem do as effectively. They can recover. They have the capability. They can pull a lot of great plays from the, you know, the trick hat, but we're just not seeing it. We're not seeing it yet.
Nope. but we are seeing we're seeing a lot of good gameplay though, like from back and forth, and kind of focusing on the end of this Ilios matchup here. Moira using her ult to push and keep Mayhem off the point long enough to kind of secure that overtime and get Dallas another point.
Absolutely. So going into Numbani, it is 2-1 in favor of Dallas. This is really kind of the Mayhem's last attempt to either tie and send it into an extra round at Lijiang Tower or pretty much just lose it. They started out strong, and we're seeing them kind of slowly start slipping again. So Numbani was, there was a lot on the line here, and
I'll fully say that I was pretty disappointed that we called them having hybrid maps as their strength, but they didn't even fully capture point A here. They weren't even able to make it to
and we saw them pull out a lot of great plays, and really, when we were in Ilios, they were doing really well. We predicted that their control points and their hybrids were going to be their strongs, and
even here we saw Tavik pull out a good Dragon Blade, taking out Taimu's Soldier and Chip's Ana. So it's not like they weren't trying.
No, they've definitely been trying all match. It's not that. It's just that
Kesta
I think what we have is a problem to capitalize on opportunities.
Yes.
And whenever a small mistake, we are unable to recover. And that is something that every team is going to expose. If you can't recover from losing a support, or you can't recover from losing one player because of your heavy DPS, like that's going to lose you games. And I think we definitely saw that in Numbani. Numbani, they got held. They had a dead stop on that first capture point for the payload. They didn't even get the first tick, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think it's, what's interesting is when we're talking about that map on Numbani and how the fuel completely, as Glenn put it, dead stopped the Mayhem, stopped us from getting one tick. It's not like the fuel steamrolled the Mayhem on this map as well. I mean, I think the clock was down to about 40 seconds before the fuel, was able to get that first tick. And it was, they had more ultimates. They won that team fight, and they were able to keep them off of the point. So as much as this game is, we see scores like 4-0 and 3-1, and we think, oh, well, that team got blown out. This is clearly a game of seconds and who can capitalize on those mistakes. And I think that the Fuel took full advantage of that in this match.
Absolutely. And I think with the new rules, the way that hybrids work or controls work, if you're not able to capture the first tick, the second team up has to capture it and to do better than you for you to win the map. So it'd be interesting to see what could have happened, what would have happened if they were able to hold those 40 seconds more, if they were able to have gone into a draw for that map, gone into Lijiang Tower, the Mayhem win Lijiang Tower. What would we have done then? We definitely have not seen that, but that is definitely an interesting scenario that we may see in the future. So it'd be interesting to see what map they use for a tiebreaker after the tiebreaker. Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here, and I would say Hanamura.
Hanamura would be great. It would definitely be another 2 capture point map, which is something that we can talk about in a different episode. I'm surprised we're not seeing King's Row. And Hanamura, I'm surprised we're not seeing Hanamura. I mean,
admittedly, this is still the preseason, so we don't know if this is the concrete maps list or if this is just kind of a template used.
Absolutely, they may have something. It seems like we're going to be doing four days of matches a week for when the season actually starts. So we may see a couple of shakeups here and there, but it just surprised me, especially Hanamura being as popular as it is. And seeing a lot of crossovers with, Heroes of the Storm and stuff like that, I would have assumed that we would have gotten a little bit more love there. But again, going back to Numbani,
Chips as Ana. going back to his bread and butter,
Yeah.
stopping Logics when Mayhem was attacking.
Nano boosting XQC. Probably one of the most terrifying characters. Adam, I'm sure you'll agree with me. A nano boosted Winston is unaltered. A nano boosted normal Winston is terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, and we saw it. I think Genji was trying to deflect another hero's ability, and XQC jumped on him with a nano boosted Winston. And Genji can't deflect a Winston.
Nothing can
Nothing
stop
can stop the Winston.
The only thing that, I mean, obviously like a Maywall or a Rhine Shield, but even then I think Rhine Shield takes splash damage, so an Oriso Shield may be able to work, but not even Diva. Diva can't absorb it with her Matrix. I mean, a Winston, a good Winston, an XQC Winston is dangerous, but a nano boosted one doing all that damage is scary.
That's when you just kind of scatter and you just count down the seconds until the nano boost is away and hope he doesn't jump on you.
What's also particularly frightening, however, and I think existing a little bit in the background, correct me if I mispronounce him, but Custa? Is that how you pronounce it? Custa?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you're right with that.
His
I probably butchered it though.
Yeah, Custa's Mercy was rezzing left and right, and that is something really interesting with this kind of new age of Mercy, because I mentioned earlier pulling out that Dragon Blade. Tavik, yes, that's just autonomous pronunciation. Tavik pulling out that Dragon Blade, taking down two members. Custa swoops in there, reses both of them. She can nullify ults with her own like no one's business.
Which again, we're seeing a different style of play, a little bit more selective resing now that she can't just, group res anymore. But I think having the single man res or the double man res when you pop that Valkyrie is even more dangerous, honestly. I mean, like when you get that one hero kill, you capitalize on it being a 5v6 match. With Mercy being able to res, even if it's a 4v6 map, she's able to get those two reses with that Valkyrie ult, and you're back up to a 6v6, and at this point, you're low on health. So now you have two heroes with full health, and an ulting Mercy, who was incredibly dangerous as a battle Mercy, and now you're on your heels. Now you're getting pushed back into a wall. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams, and not just the Mayhem, not just the Fuel, just teams in general react to countering something like that. Because when you're up against the wall with an ulting Valkyrie Mercy and two now fully rezzed heroes, it's going to be... It's definitely a situation. It's definitely a tough spot to get out of.
And this might sound, stupid or stupidly obvious, but... I mean, there's a lot of truth in the phrase, focus the Mercy, focus the healer. Like, you take out that support, because if I'm Tavik and if I'm Tavik and I bust out the Dragon Blade and I'm not going after that Mercy, but I know that Mercy is there, I can basically, sign on to a res for everything that I've already done.
Yeah.
So, I mean... We saw a great match between these two teams. Now, Colin, if you had to pick one and just one player that's your MVP for this match, who would you pick?
Do I have to glue myself to the Mayhem here? Or
No,
is
this is a floor is open. Anyone on this match?
I'm going to say I was extremely entertained with Logix as Tracer. I was extremely entertained with Effect as Tracer. However, XQC as Winston was, no pun intended, a beast. Like, he jumping in and out. We saw it on Lunar. We saw it on Numbani. He is frightening as Winston.
So, Glenn, is that your pick as well?
It's hard. It's so hard. Don't get me wrong. I think Tavik had some great Widow plays. I think we saw a lot of strong Tracer plays from Logix, but this is the same thing that we saw up against the Shock. You know what I mean? These guys on their own stand really well. We need to see more team plays from them. We need to see more teamwork. We need to see more. We need to see bigger plays from them, because while a Widow can get, that, 4 shots, 4 kills and turn the tide, when the team comes back as a 6, you can't just rely on the Widow to pick everybody off. You have to work as a cohesive team, and that's what I want to see. So as much as I love them and as much as I want to pick Mayhem, I'm going to have to go with Fuel. And I'm just going to pick XQC for this one as well.
Well, and just real quick, I have been doting on XQC here, but you pointed out something really interesting, I think. When we talk about XQC's Lunar play, he had a lot of help from Effect whittling down. He just got, it was an effort between XQC and Effect wiping out that point. And that impressive play we saw on Numbani as XQC, he was nano boosted. It's
absolutely he
about...
had a lot of help, and it's a lot of teamwork, and his team definitely boosted him up. Now, don't get me wrong, it was between XQC and Effect, because Effect was my MVP for the Outlaws Fuel game. There's no doubt about it, and Effect is a MVP for this match as well, no doubt about it. But when it comes to helping the team be able to jump in, getting those kills, dropping that shield, I think, and with Effects being kind of pinned down by Tvik and having to go up against Logix in all those Tracer battles, I think XQC kind of stepped up. I think he went around all that and was able to help the team overall, and that's why I pick him as my MVP. Adam?
I would have to agree. You guys touched on all the points that I was going to mention, but XQC really took advantage of the positioning that his team put him in to let them win. And I think that that's going to be what we're going to see a lot of in this league, is that no one player is going to be able to 1v6 a team. No one's going to be able to put his team on the back enough to really win an entire game by himself. But what we're going to see the great players do is take advantage of the position their team puts them in, and I think that XQC exemplified that during this match.
Absolutely, and like you said, we're not going to see one player do that, and nor should we. I think with this being an official league, I think with this being, solid teams that the best of the best that the world has to offer, I think what we want as a community is to see great teamwork, to see great team plays, to see great capitalizations by teams doing trick stuff, doing crazy stuff, but working together as a team overall, because that's what this is all about, isn't it? That's what this game is about, is working as a team, because you could turn the tides as a solo player, but it takes a team.
As a very wise man once said, teamwork makes the dream work.
It's a Colin original.
I thought of it just as myself. I am the wise man. So, what's our kind of final thoughts here for this interesting
Mayhem
Day
Monday.
3 Mayhem Monday match?
Honestly, I think coming out of that Outlaws game, I definitely think the Fuel was probably the number 1, if not the number 2 team to watch. I think Seoul is probably the only one that really rivals them in my book, but it was great to see them come up against the Mayhem. This was one of my most anticipated matches, and while the Mayhem came up very literally 40 seconds short, the Fuel is still a great team, and they were able to capitalize on a lot of mistakes, and hopefully the Mayhem will be able to learn from this and come back a little bit stronger in their next match in the regular season. And I think the Fuel is the team to watch out for. And I've said it before. I said it from the beginning. This is probably, if it wasn't for the Mayhem, this would be my team. I think these guys have an incredible amount of talent that they're bringing to this, and their teamwork is only going to get better.
I'm definitely not going to deny the Fuel's talent. We talked about this previous when we talked about them versus the Outlaws, but you basically have this all-star team here, and I think this is kind of the gameplay that I think people expected more than the Outlaws. So, man, the Mayhem they gotta step it up. I'm really pulling for the Mayhem. I'm legitimately rooting for them, but
They just
got
need
it.
a little bit more time.
Exactly.
Adam?
I just want to say that I'm confident that the Mayhem are going to bounce back, and January 10th can't come soon enough.
No, it cannot. But with that said, in the meantime, Adam, tell us about our social media.
Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can at OW League Now. The OW stands for Overwatch.
And the now stands for now.
The now stands for now in case they talked over each other. You can also find us at SoundCloud and iTunes. Just search Overwatch League Now. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Leave us 5 stars. Leave us 4 stars. Leave us 1 star. Tell us that you hate my jokes. That's fine. Just make sure that you are giving us some feedback. Again, we're very new to this podcasting thing, and we are learning as we go.
And we are getting better. We've gotten some feedback, and we're improving on that. One of them was pronunciation, so I made sure that we said Tavik's name as correctly as possible every time.
Q.
Tiv QE.
Thai food.
Oh my god, you guys are the worst.
TV dinner.
So with social media out of the way, thank you guys for listening in. I do want to give a shout out to Skylink again for our intro song. We really appreciate partnering up with Skylink, and it's a wonderful song. And if you want to listen to the rest of it, make sure to listen to the end of the episode. We are tagging the full song at the end. So once again, my name is Glenn.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Colin.
Stay on the payload.
Please.
Or get some Thai food.
TV dinner.
One shot, one kill. Cheers, love! The cavalry's here! Nerf this! Heroes never die. I've got you in my sights. Fool.